Ladies and gentlemen, guys and girls, my name is Raven and welcome back to my channel. Now, last night there was another Warriors Den live stream, but this video is going to be both a Warriors Den live stream and a Ravens ramble because when it comes to the actual news side of the Warriors Den, there wasn't that much, so I'm going to go over that real quickly, and then we're going to have a nice big discussion about balance, because once again, this was a part 2 essentially of the balance talks that the devs want to do from last week. And there's some very interesting stuff to talk about when it comes to balance because, in my opinion, which I'll get into soon, I think the devs are kind of screwed if they keep going the way they're going right now. But first of all, let's get into the news and then we'll get into the discussion. So up first are the elite outfits, the content of the week. Those will be playing in the background. Once again, more outfits. Next up though is the really big important thing, and that is the sale of the week, which is actually pretty fucking awesome. Basically, all mask outfits are 13,000 steel instead of 20,000 steel. And all executions are 2,000 steel cheaper. Now that is pretty goddamn awesome, and this offer is going until the 26th of November. So we still got a little bit to go. So if you want to jump in and grab some cheaper executions, grab some cheaper masks, now's the time to do it. And last piece of news is the new event order Ranked Vanquisher Challenge. So be the faction with the most ranked mode matches won, and essentially you'll get an XP boost reward for that. It's going from the 23rd of November until the 26th of November. So if you play ranked, jump in, do that, and yeah, you'll get an XP boost reward if your faction comes out on top. But that is the news section done. Now we're going to get into the Ravens ramble part of the video because there's a lot to talk about in terms of balance. Now before we get into that, Shigoki is confirmed to be getting his rework for Season 9. The devs point that out again. They said that with Raider, they want to buff him. They don't want to fully rework him because they like where he is right now with certain things, but they basically confirmed that he will be getting some sort of buff in the future. Let's hope it's a good one. So there are those two little things that I just wanted to throw out there quickly, but now we need to talk about something a bit more serious, and it comes to basically the entire game and where we're moving forward and how the devs are, in my opinion, right now, kind of screwed, and it's down to their mentality because they don't know where they want to go with the game. They don't know who to please or who they want to please, essentially. And we're going to talk about what I mean by that because, yeah, they're in a sticky situation and it's all of their own making right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up their Season 7 1v1 win-loss matrix thing for Jules, okay? So that's going to be up on the screen, and we're going to have a quick chat about this because it's something we need to talk about. Now, basically what this is, it's Season 7, so not the current season. They're always one season behind for those of you who do not know. And basically what this thing does is it says their overall win rates percentage on the side there, okay? Now, there's some very interesting things here if you look at the heroes. At the very top, we have Conqueror. That is a no-brainer. Conqueror is very, very strong. Everyone knows Conqueror is very, very strong. But then if you look down, there's Valkyrie. Valkyrie is pretty strong. Now she had a rework. She's half decent. You have Shinobi there. That one's a little bit weird. He's a little bit light spammy, and you don't really see many Shinobis around the place. And then you have, fourth, Aramusha. Aramusha is number 4 in the 1v1 duel win-loss matrix, okay? So this is their data that the devs are looking at. Now, keep in mind something very, very important here. Up in the corner here, it says Platinum rank and above. So they're only looking at Platinum and above. So we're going back again to that, you know, top 10%, top 2.1% type thing, top 5%. They're looking at the top players in the game. So according to their data, Aramusha is right up there. Orochi is right up there, okay? You have Berserker up there, which is cool. But then if you look down the bottom here, all right, you have Warlord at the very bottom. You have, not only do you have Warlord at the very bottom, you then have Nobushi and Peacekeeper there. But Peacekeeper is apparently very, very strong. She's right down there at the bottom. Centurion's down there. Lawbringer, of course, he's down there. Gladiator's down there. Highlander's in the middle, same with Warden. But Warden's somewhere in the middle and not top tier, according to their data when it comes to their win-loss matrix. So that's Platinum ranked and above for Duel Season 7. Now we're going to take a look at the 4v4. Now keep in mind there's no rank, so they're pulling from the top 4% of players. Once again, keep that in mind. It's not 10%. It's not 20%, the top 4% they're looking at here. And things are very different, except a little bit not, right? Because you have Aramusha second. Aramusha, who's just received a whole bunch of nerfs. So Aramusha's never been that great of a hero to begin with. He was cool at the start because no one knew what the fuck to do with him. He mulches assassins only because there is a bug with Assassin's Reflex Guard that allows him to mulch assassins. But he's still number 2. He's above Warden. Aramusha is above Warden, is above Shaman. is above Berserker, okay? And also is way above Conqueror. Conqueror is down in the middle there, according to the top 4% of players. And Peacekeeper is at the very bottom. Now, the reason why I find this funny is because most of you will probably find this funny. We know that these characters, when it comes to Warden, when it comes to Peacekeeper, when it comes to Highlander, Conqueror, all this sort of stuff, they're very strong characters, and yet they're all down towards the bottom in 4v4 when it comes to top 4%. And of course, you have Aramusha, who everyone who knows anything about the game knows that Aramusha is pretty damn weak right now. In fact, he's down near the bottom, and yet he's second here. And if we go back to the 1v1, he's fourth there, which makes no sense whatsoever. Now, I have to say one thing. The devs said that they only pull, this is just the data, and they don't just look at the data. They look at, they look at player feedback, and, they make changes accordingly. Now, the problem with that is you can't. It's impossible. What they're saying they're doing is impossible to do, because right now the developers have no fucking clue what they're doing, not because they're incompetent. Not saying that. Not because they're bad at their jobs. Not saying that. They have no idea what the fuck they're doing because they're trying to please two separate audiences and they don't know what they want to do. It is 100% obvious that the developers still see For Honor as this highly competitive game, that you need to take seriously, you need to get really good at, you need to master characters, and you need to crush people. And they want to keep pushing tournaments, they want to do a rank scene, they want to do this highly competitive thing. That's where the developers want to go. That is why they're balancing around platinum, rank, and above, and of course the top 4% of players. Because they're balancing around that top percent, because that top percent know exactly how to play the game at a very, very high level. They're the pros, and they want to make it super competitive for those guys to please them. And then the whole thing breaks, and then we get to the disconnect of why there are so many issues in For Honor right now. Because they're only looking at the top 5% of players, 4% there, maybe 10% here, right? And that leaves out the other 90% of their player base, majority of which are on consoles. And I've already talked a ton in the past about the massive difference there, but let's just leave that aside for a second. 90% of their player base, okay, is just sitting there that isn't in this top percent. Now let's say that the top 30% of players and 30% is being extremely fucking generous, are close to the data that they've shown here, okay? And they have no problem with light spam, they have no problem with light attacks, they can parry anything on demand, they're all really, really good at their feint game, doing all this sort of stuff, and they're awesome at the game. Top 30%, once again, giving a lot of fucking leeway there. That still leaves 70% of the player base that is having trouble with light attacks, that's having trouble with light spams, that's having trouble with everyone parrying everything all the time, or they can't parry everything on demand, especially all the light attacks. That's having trouble with their whole, people fainting all over the place, you get those little super pro berserker type things. So that right there means that there is 70% of your player base, and once again, I'm giving you the longest piece of string I can possibly muster here when it comes to that percentage. 70% are struggling with the things in the game, they're not finding it fun, and they're basically just having a hard time with this. But the devs have clearly said that they only want to balance around the top 5% of players, or 10% of players. So the devs are saying that they want to develop the game around the top 5% of players essentially, or the top 10% of players. But the problem with that is they're now neglecting the rest of their player base, which is the majority. But they're saying in the same breath that they're taking feedback from the community and not just looking at the data. But all the data they're looking at is from that top 5%, and they can't possibly take data from the rest of the player base because that goes against their whole goal of trying to bounce around tournaments and bounce around these top players and bounce around all this sort of stuff. You cannot do both at the same time. You either choose to bounce around the majority, okay, in that case, you leave your pro players in the dust, essentially, because stuff that they're not struggling with, they have no problem with light attacks, they have no problem with parrying, they have no problem with all this other stuff, okay? They're not struggling with that. That's not an issue to them, but it is an issue to the majority of the other player base. Things that are an issue for the majority of the player base are not going to affect the pro players, so you cannot balance around the two of them. But the devs are trying to say that they are balancing around the two of them. They're trying to take feedback from everyone, which they just physically can't because they just don't go together. Because any change they make for the majority is going to piss off the pro players because they weren't having an issue with it. Any change you make for the pro players to make it easier for them, because if they can't deal with something, you bet your fucking ass no one else can. That's why they're at the top. So the majority already can't deal with that. They're already not going to like it. If the pro players don't like it, okay, then no one likes it. And if you fix it for the pro players, guess what? The rest of your player base, they're not pro players. They're still not going to be able to deal with that, regardless of whether you fix it for the pros or not, and they're going to hate it. So the devs right now are stuck between a rock and a hard place, and it's closing in on them, and they don't know which direction to go. They don't know where to fix the game for the majority or to fix the game for the, top 5% and make it super pro, all that sort of stuff. Because anything you do that the pro players like, okay, the rest of the player base aren't going to like it because they're going to be shit at the game compared to the pro players. And they're not going to be able to handle what the pro players are handling, and then they're fucked. And mind you, that's not even taking into account the massive difference between consoles and PCs. We're just talking about who the devs are balancing the game for. And there's a second big part of this. If the devs can't make up their mind on who they're trying to balance for, because they can't please both sides, then they're going to end up losing both players. Because the pro players are not going to stick around unless their needs get met. The majority of the players are not going to stick around unless their needs get met. So who would you rather lose if you're Ubisoft and For Honor devs? The majority of your players, 70%, with the biggest, longest piece of fucking string I can find in the world. Okay, because it's more close to about 10% in the high top tier. So you'd be losing about 90% to 80% of your player base if you can't please those guys. Or would you rather lose that top 5% of players, that top 10% of players? Speaking strictly from a business standpoint, that 10%, top 20%, whatever, can get screwed. I'd rather keep all the other guys because all the other guys are going to keep making me money, where the top 10%, 20% is such a small player base that, whatever. You can lose them and still keep going. If you lose the fucking 80%, you're fucked. But that's just from a business standpoint. Should the game be super competitive? Yes. It's a fighting game. It should be competitive. Should the devs be listening to the top tier players when it comes to balance? Yeah, technically they should. And I'm fully 100% on board with that. But not once have I ever sat here and said they shouldn't listen to top players. Top players are crap. But technically, they should be listening to top players because they know the game in and out. They know exactly what the game needs. As it stands right now, the developers are screwed. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to have the top 4% of players being super competitive, doing all their tournaments, all that sort of stuff. They want to make them happy. But they also want to make the other 70, 80, 90% of players, okay, happy as well, when it just physically is impossible. You cannot please both because both those camps are living in two completely different universes. They do not get each other whatsoever. They don't even speak the same language, and you will never be able to please both of them unless you make two separate games. And that's an inherent flaw with this game because of the fact that you have to balance the heroes. Unless they do two completely separate balancing for the heroes, so you have a Berserker that's like, pro tier, and it's balanced specifically for that 4%, okay, so they can have everything they want, and then you have Berserker, which is balanced for the other majority of the players, okay? Unless you can do that, you're never going to please both, and I know for a fact Ubisoft is not going to do that. They're just trying to sort of put something forward and go, does everyone sort of accept this? Is this okay for everyone? You don't like it, but do you guys like it? The other 90%? Yeah, you're okay with it. You're not too happy, but you're not going to rage quit over it and leave. That's cool. Hey, 4%. What about you? You like sort of, you okay? You good? No, you don't like it. Yeah, we get you don't like it, but are you going to quit over it? No? Okay, cool. We're going to leave that there. Because no one's leaving the game, everyone's frustrated, no one loves it, but at least no one's quitting. Currently, from what I see, that's what the devs are trying to do. They're trying to please two completely separate markets with the same product. And it's impossible. You can't do it. The developers need to pick a fucking side and get on it. Stop being this neutral thing in the middle, trying not to piss everyone off. They either need to go, you know what, we're going to balance the game for the majority, really fucking smart business move, or they're going to go, you know what, screw the majority, don't give a fuck about them. We're going to balance around that top 4%, top 5% of players. And we're going to try and push that esports dream for Honor. And a quick side note as well, I reckon one of the biggest problems that's facing For Honor as well right now is the fact that the majority of players, like I said, that big majority over there, that big group, so many of them just don't see the game as competitive anymore. Even a bunch of the pro players, they're sort of just like, yeah, we still want to be real competitive and stuff because that's just what they do. But they look at things completely different compared to when the game first launched. I've been here since the start, for those of you who don't know. So I've seen them, how they used to talk about it. They used to be super fucking like, if anyone said anything that they could easily deal with, they'd be like, get the fuck out of here, get good, and they'd go ham on that shit. Nowadays, they sort of just hang out in their own little corner. They venture out every now and then and just go, hey, everyone, get good, and then walk back to their corner. But they're not so fervent anymore. And I don't know if that's because they themselves don't see For Honor as this super goddamn competitive esports thing anymore, or if they still do, but they're just being more quiet about it because they're sick of telling everyone to get good. But I can definitely see the majority of players, me included, used to take the game very fucking seriously. All right, I used to do that, but now after all the fuck ups the game has gone through and all that sort of stuff, you know, yeah, they fixed a ton of shit. I'm not taking anything away from that, but I don't see this game as this super sweaty competitive thing anymore. I just see it as something to have fun with, shits and giggles, fuck around, you know, enjoy the game for the broken mess that it is. And I know there's a ton of players in the majority who also see the game like that. And if that's how majority of the players see the game, even if the devs want this thing to be a super competitive thing, it's just not going to work because no one sees your game as super competitive. And the developers may have this dream for it, but their dream has to match the reality of the player base. And if it doesn't match the reality of the player base, then once again, they're screwed and they need to work something out. Bounce around the top 4% or bounce around the majority. They have to pick one. And their vision for the game going forward has to match whichever either crowd they pick or it has to match the majority of the player base. But it's going to be very, very interesting to see where this goes from here because, yeah, the devs need to change something up because it's just not working on either camp. Right now, they're just pissing off everyone. And I don't think it can last, you know, much longer. They need to do something. But that is the end of the video, guys. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and let me know your thoughts. I love reading and replying to all your comments down below. And feel free to check out my Discord and Twitter. There is a link down below in the description box for both of those as well. The Discord is a great way for me to talk to you guys outside the YouTube comments section. And of course, the Twitter is a great way for you guys to get a notification whenever a video is being uploaded because YouTube is a bit weird sometimes. And if you like this video and you like what I'm doing here on the channel and you want to support the channel further, feel free to check out my Patreon. There'll be a link down below in the description box and a link will pop up at the end of the video. And if you choose to donate, it is greatly appreciated. And a big shout out to my current patrons whose names you've been seeing in the background. Just wanted to say thank you for your support. It really does mean a lot. And please share this video around. It does help me out a fuck ton. And if you want to see more videos from me, please hit the subscribe button. I shall see you all in the next video. Have a good one, guys.